The sound of my brand new diesel generator humming to life in my garage was the sweetest sound I had ever heard, mainly because it meant I would never be caught without power again after the nightmare ice storm we had last February in Austin, Texas. I had spent $3,000 on that machine, had it professionally installed with all the proper permits, and made sure it met every city code requirement down to the last bolt. What I did not account for was Patricia Wainwright, the 47-year-old president of our Meadowbrook Hills Homeowners Association, who apparently had nothing better to do than patrol the neighborhood looking for violations. It was a Saturday morning in late October when I decided to run my first real test of the generator. The installation company had done a quick startup to make sure everything worked, but I wanted to see how it performed under an actual load, powering my whole house. The weather forecast showed a cold front coming through midweek with potential for severe storms, and I wanted to be prepared. I fired it up around 9 in the morning, figuring that was a reasonable hour, and settled in to monitor how everything performed. The generator was in my garage with the door closed, and honestly, it was not that loud. Sure, you could hear it running if you were nearby, but it was not like I was running a jackhammer or hosting a rock concert. My house sat on a half-acre lot, and my nearest neighbor was a good 70 feet away. I had measured the sound level with a decibel meter app on my phone, and it registered at about 65 decibels from my property line, well under the city's daytime limit of 75 decibels for residential areas. I was inside checking the voltage readings on my electrical panel when my doorbell rang. Through the frosted glass, I could see a familiar silhouette that made my stomach sink. Patricia stood on my porch in her typical uniform of khaki capris, a polo shirt with the HOA logo embroidered on it, and a clipboard clutched to her chest like a shield. Her blonde hair was pulled back so tight it looked painful, and she wore the expression of someone who had just discovered a major crime in progress. I opened the door and gave her my best neutral smile. "Morning, Patricia. What can I do for you?" "Warren Porter. I am here to inform you that you are in direct violation of Meadowbrook Hills HOA Covenant Section 12, subsection 4, regarding excessive noise disturbances," she said without any greeting, reading from her clipboard. "You need to shut down whatever machinery you are operating immediately." "My generator?" I asked, genuinely confused. "I am just running a test. It is well within city noise ordinances." "City ordinances are irrelevant," Patricia said, her voice sharp. "The HOA covenants clearly state that no homeowner shall create noise levels that disturb the peaceful enjoyment of neighboring properties. I received 3 complaints already this morning." I seriously doubted that, considering only one of my immediate neighbors was even home. The Johnsons to my left were in Colorado visiting their daughter, and the Ray's family to my right had mentioned they were spending the weekend at their lake house. The house directly behind me had been empty for 2 months since the previous owners moved to Dallas. "Who complained?" I asked. "That information is confidential," Patricia replied primly. "The point is, you need to shut it down now or I will have no choice but to call the authorities." "Call the authorities," I repeated. "Patricia, I am legally testing a legally installed generator during legal daytime hours. I have all my permits. What exactly would you report?" Her face flushed red, which I had learned over my 4 years living in this neighborhood was her tell that she knew she was on shaky ground but would not back down anyway. Patricia had been HOA president for 6 years and ran the association like it was her personal fiefdom. She had fined people for having their trash cans visible from the street an hour past pickup time, sent violation notices for children's chalk drawings on driveways, and once tried to ban a resident's therapy dog because it exceeded the weight limit for pets. Noise complaints are handled by police, she said. If you refuse to comply with the HOA, I will call them and let them deal with you, and you will still face fines from the association, starting at $100 per day until you come into compliance. Compliance with what, exactly? I asked, trying to keep my voice level. What do you want me to do, Patricia? Never run my generator. What happens when the power goes out? You should have thought of that before you installed that monstrosity, she said. And yes, the board has already discussed this. We are proposing a new covenant amendment to ban generators entirely unless they are completely silent, which yours clearly is not. I felt my jaw clench. You cannot ban generators. That is insane. What about people with medical equipment? What about basic emergency preparedness? The board meeting is next Thursday at 7, Patricia said. You are welcome to voice your concerns then. In the meantime, shut it down or I am making the call. She turned on her heel and walked back to her white Lexus SUV parked in front of my house. I watched her sit in the driver's seat and pull out her phone. She was actually going to do it. She was actually going to call the police on me for running my own generator on my own property during the middle of the day. I went back inside and shut down the generator, mainly because I did not want to deal with the hassle, not because I thought Patricia was right. The sudden silence felt oppressive. I pulled up the HOA covenants on my laptop and read through Section 12, subsection 4. It was vague as hell, talking about reasonable enjoyment and excessive disturbances without defining what any of those terms actually meant. It was the kind of language that let the HOA interpret things however they wanted. 20 minutes later, a police cruiser pulled up in front of my house. I went out to meet the officer, a young guy named Rodriguez who I recognized from a neighborhood watch meeting a year back. He looked embarrassed. Hey, Warren, he said. Got a call about noise complaints. Mind if I ask what is going on? I explained the situation, showed him my permits, the installation documentation, and the sound level readings I had taken. Rodriguez nodded along, looking more and more uncomfortable. Look, man, I am not going to cite you for anything, he said. You are clearly in the right here legally. But the lady who called, she was pretty insistent, said you were running industrial equipment, endangering the neighborhood, all kinds of stuff. She wanted me to make you shut it down. It is already off, I said. But what happens next time the power goes out and I need to run it? Is she going to call you guys every time? Rodriguez shrugged. HOA disputes are civil matters. We cannot enforce their rules unless you are actually breaking a law, which you are not. My advice: document everything, keep your permits handy, and maybe talk to a lawyer if they start fining you. HOAs can be tricky. After he left, I called my friend Marcus, who was a real estate attorney. I explained the situation and he groaned. HOAs are the worst, he said. Legally, they cannot ban generators in Texas, especially not after the winter storm. There was actually legislation passed that limited HOA authority over certain emergency equipment. But that does not mean they would not try. Send me your covenants and I will take a look. In the meantime, document every interaction with them. The rest of the weekend passed without incident. I did not run the generator again, not wanting to provoke Patricia further. But I stewed on it. I had bought this house, paid my HOA fees on time, kept my property immaculate, and never caused problems. The one time I tried to do something responsible and be prepared for emergencies, I got threatened with fines and police calls. Tuesday afternoon, I came home from work to find a certified letter wedged in my door. It was from the HOA, formally notifying me of a violation, and assessing a $100 fine for excessive noise disturbance on October 28th. The letter stated I had 10 days to pay or dispute the fine, and warned that continued violations would result in escalating penalties, including potential legal action and a lien on my property. I took pictures of the letter and emailed everything to Marcus. He called me within an hour. They cannot fine you for legally operating permitted equipment during daytime hours, he said. I am drafting a response letter citing the relevant Texas property code sections. Do not pay this fine. We are going to fight it. What about the board meeting Thursday? I asked. Definitely go, Marcus said, and record it if Texas is a one-party consent state, which it is. You want documentation of everything they say. Thursday evening, I walked into the community center building where HOA meetings were held. The room was set up with a long table at the front where the 5 board members sat, and rows of chairs for residents. Patricia sat in the center, flanked by her board cronies. Richard, the vice president who owned a car dealership, Candace, the treasurer who was Patricia's best friend, Sharon, the secretary who barely spoke, and Tom, the newest board member who seemed to be along for the ride. About 15 other residents were scattered in the chairs. I recognized most of them but did not know many well. I sat in the 3rd row and pulled out my phone, starting a voice recording that I kept visible on the table in front of me. Patricia called the meeting to order and went through the usual business: approval of last month's minutes, financial report, landscaping updates. Then she got to new business. Item 4 on the agenda, she said, her voice taking on a particularly smug tone. Proposed covenant amendment regarding generator restrictions. As many of you know, one of our residents recently installed an extremely loud generator that has been disturbing the peace of our community. The board proposes amending our covenants to restrict generator use to genuine emergencies only, and to require that any generators be professionally soundproofed to the point of being inaudible from neighboring properties. Several residents turned to look at me. I kept my expression neutral. Before we open this to discussion, I want to emphasize that this is about maintaining the peaceful, high-quality environment that makes Meadowbrook Hills such a desirable place to live, Patricia continued. We all chose to live here because of the standards this community maintains. We cannot allow industrial equipment to destroy that. Can I speak? I asked, standing up. Patricia looked like she had swallowed a lemon. The floor is open for resident comment. I walked to the front and turned to face the room. I am the resident Patricia is talking about. My name is Warren Porter. I live at 42 Meadowbrook Lane, and I want to be very clear about what actually happened. I installed a residential backup generator with all proper city permits and in compliance with all building codes. The generator is rated for residential use, is not industrial equipment, and operates well within city noise ordinances. I ran a single test on Saturday morning for less than 2 hours before Patricia came to my door and threatened to call the police, which she did despite my being in full legal compliance. A few residents murmured. Patricia's face was turning red again. The city noise limit for daytime residential areas is 75 decibels, I continued. My generator measures at 65 decibels from my property line. For reference, normal conversation is about 60 decibels. A lawnmower is about 90. What Patricia is proposing would effectively ban all generators, which is not only unreasonable but likely illegal under Texas property code. That is not true, Patricia interjected. HOA covenants supersede city ordinances. Actually, they do not, I said. Not when it comes to emergency equipment. After the winter storm last year, The Texas legislature specifically limited HOA authority over backup power systems. I have consulted with an attorney, and this proposed amendment would be unenforceable. We will let the courts decide that if necessary, Patricia shot back. The fact remains that your noise is disturbing your neighbors. Which neighbors? I asked. Because both my adjacent neighbors were out of town when you claimed to receive 3 complaints. So who complained, Patricia? Was it you? Did you file 3 complaints yourself to justify this? The room went completely silent. Patricia's mouth opened and closed like a fish. This is outrageous, she finally sputtered. How dare you accuse me of dishonesty? I am trying to protect this community. Then answer the question, I said. Who complained? You said it was confidential, but if you are basing a covenant amendment on these complaints, residents have a right to know if they are even legitimate. Richard, the vice president, cleared his throat. Warren, the specific identities are not important. What matters is that the board has determined this is a potential issue that needs addressing. So there were no complaints, I said. Patricia just decided she did not like my generator and made up a reason to go after it. Meeting adjourned, Patricia announced abruptly, standing up. The board will take all comments under advisement and vote on the amendment at next month's meeting. You cannot just adjourn in the middle of discussion, someone called out. But Patricia was already gathering her papers and heading for the door, Candace scurrying after her. The other board members looked uncomfortable. Tom, the new guy, actually looked sympathetic. After the meeting, a few residents came up to me. One was an older man named Frank who lived a few streets over. Good for you standing up to her, he said. Patricia has been drunk on power for years. Someone needs to keep her in check. A woman named Jessica, who lived near the neighborhood entrance, added, I have a generator too. I installed it after the storm. We lost power for 5 days and my daughter has asthma. I needed to keep her nebulizer running. If Patricia tries to ban generators, she will have a fight on her hands. I felt a bit better leaving the meeting, but I also knew Patricia was not the type to back down. She had been publicly challenged, and that would only make her dig in harder. The following Monday, I received another certified letter. This one informed me that the HOA was assessing an additional $100 fine for my disrespectful conduct toward board members during the meeting, and warned that any further disruptions would result in more serious consequences. It also stated that the generator amendment would be fast-tracked for a vote at a special meeting in 2 weeks, rather than waiting for the regular monthly meeting. Marcus was livid when I showed him the letter. They cannot fine you for speaking at a meeting. That is retaliation, and it is blatantly illegal. We are filing a lawsuit. I do not want to sue my HOA, I protested. They are not giving you a choice, Marcus said. Trust me, once we file, they will back down. HOAs talk tough, but they fold when they face real legal consequences. Their insurance will not cover them for this kind of retaliation, and they know it. He drafted a lawsuit alleging HOA overreach, retaliation, and violation of Texas property code. We filed it that Wednesday. By Friday, I received a call from a lawyer representing the HOA, asking if we could discuss a settlement. They want to drop the fines if you drop the lawsuit, Marcus told me after a conference call with their attorney. What about the generator amendment? I asked. They are still moving forward with that, but their lawyer admitted it probably would not hold up if challenged. They are posturing. So Patricia gets to keep harassing me just without the fines, Marcus sighed. It is up to you. We can push forward with the suit, but it will be expensive and time-consuming. Or you can accept the settlement, drop the case, and just deal with Patricia's nonsense knowing you are legally in the right. I thought about it over the weekend. Fighting felt good in principle, But the reality was that I would be spending thousands in legal fees and months of stress to prove a point I had already proven. And Patricia was not going to change no matter what a court said. "Let's take the settlement," I told Marcus Monday morning. But I wanted in writing that all fines are dropped, expunged from my record, and that I am in full compliance with current HOA covenants. We got exactly that. The HOA lawyer sent over an agreement that dropped all fines, confirmed I was in good standing, and included a clause stating the HOA would not assess any future fines related to generator use, unless I violated specific noise ordinances with actual documented complaints from multiple verified residents. It was not perfect, but it was something. The special meeting happened, and the board voted 4-1 to pass the generator amendment, with Tom being the only dissent. But the amendment was so poorly written and so obviously unenforceable that Marcus assured me it meant nothing. If they tried to enforce it, we would sue again and win easily. For a few weeks, everything was quiet. I did not run my generator except for the automatic weekly self-test it did every Sunday afternoon for 10 minutes, which was so brief and quiet that nobody could reasonably complain about it. Patricia gave me dirty looks whenever she saw me in the neighborhood, but she kept her distance. Then the weather forecast for mid-November started looking ominous. A strong cold front was moving down from the north, and meteorologists were talking about the potential for severe thunderstorms, high winds, and even isolated tornadoes. The Storm Prediction Center had put our area under a moderate risk for severe weather on Wednesday, which was pretty unusual for November. Tuesday evening, I made sure my generator was fueled and ready to go. I stocked up on groceries, filled my bathtubs with water, and charged all my devices. I had learned my lesson from the winter storm. When the power went out in Texas, it could be out for a long time. The storms hit Wednesday afternoon with a vengeance. I was working from home and watched through my office window as the sky turned an eerie green-black color. The wind picked up, bending trees at crazy angles. Then the rain came, so heavy I could barely see across the street. Lightning flashed continuously and thunder shook the house. Around 3 o'clock, the power went out. 1 second I was on a video call with my boss, and the next everything went dark. I waited a few minutes to see if it would come back on, but my phone quickly buzzed with alerts from the power company estimating restoration times of 24 to 48 hours due to widespread damage. I went to the garage and started the generator. The familiar hum kicked in, and within seconds, my house had power again. Lights came on, refrigerator started running, internet modem rebooted. It was not full power to everything. I had set up the generator to prioritize essential circuits. But it was enough. The storm raged all afternoon and into the evening. I watched the news on my television, seeing reports of downed trees, power lines in the streets, and damaged roofs all over Austin. The power company was reporting over 100,000 customers without electricity. Restoration would take days, not hours, especially with more storms potentially moving in over the next few days. Around 8 o'clock, as the storm was finally starting to ease up, my doorbell rang. I was not expecting anyone, and I wondered who would be out in this weather. I opened the door to find Patricia standing on my porch, soaking wet, looking absolutely miserable. "I need your help," she said, her voice small in a way I had never heard before. "My power is out." I called the power company, and they said it might be 5 days or more before they get to my street because there is a major transmission line down. I have food spoiling in my freezer. My phone is almost dead. I just need to charge some devices and maybe save some of my food. "Can I please use your power?" I stared at her for a long moment. This woman had called the cops on me, fined me, tried to ban my generator, and made my life hell for a month. And now she was standing on my porch begging for the very thing she had tried to take away from me. "You called the police on me for running this generator," I said quietly. Patricia looked down at her feet. "I know, I was wrong. Please, Warren, I am asking for help." Part of me wanted to slam the door in her face, but I was not that person. I stepped aside. "Come in. You are dripping all over the porch." She stepped inside, and I handed her a towel from the hall closet. She dried her face and hair, still not quite meeting my eyes. "Why did you do it?" I asked. "Why come after me so hard about the generator?" Patricia was quiet for a moment, wrapping the towel around her shoulders. "Because I could not stand that you had one and I did not," she finally said. "After the winter storm, I wanted to get a generator too. But my husband said it was too expensive, that we would be fine, that it was a waste of money. So when you got one and I heard it running, I just got so angry. It was not fair. It was stupid and petty, and I am sorry." It was probably the most honest Patricia had ever been with me. I gestured toward the living room. "Sit down. I will get you some coffee or something." She sat on my couch, still clutching the towel, looking small and defeated. I made coffee, and we sat in awkward silence for a few minutes, sipping from our mugs and listening to the rain and the hum of the generator. "How much food do you need to save?" I asked finally. "I have a deep freezer in my garage," she said. "It is full. Probably $500 worth of meat and frozen vegetables. I know you do not owe me anything, but if I could just run an extension cord or something." I thought about it. My generator could handle the load, but running an extension cord to Patricia's house was not really feasible. Her house was 3 doors down and across the street. "Why do not you bring what you can fit in coolers, and I will make room in my freezer," I said. "For the rest, I do not know what to tell you. I cannot power your whole house." Patricia nodded, looking relieved. "Thank you, really. I will bring some things over." She left and came back half an hour later with 2 large coolers packed with frozen food. I cleared out space in my garage freezer and helped her load everything in. As we worked, she was quiet, but I could tell she wanted to say something. "What?" I finally asked. "The other board members," she said. "Richard, Candace, Sharon, they are all calling me. Their power is out too. They heard you have a generator running and they want me to ask if you can help them." I almost laughed. "You are kidding." "I told them I would ask," Patricia said. "But I understand if you tell them all to go to hell. I deserve that. We all do." The thing was, I was not the kind of person who could just tell my neighbors to suffer, even if they had treated me badly. But I also was not going to be a doormat. "Here is what I will do," I said. "Anyone who wants to charge devices or save food can come by during reasonable hours. I am not running a 24-hour charging station, and people need to be respectful, but I will help where I can." Patricia looked like she might cry. "That is more than we deserve." "Yes, it is," I agreed. "But this is what community is supposed to be about. Helping each other. Maybe you all will remember that next time you want to find someone for having their trash can out too long." Over the next few hours, word spread through the neighborhood. My doorbell kept ringing with neighbors showing up with devices to charge: phones, tablets, laptops, battery packs. I set up a charging station in my garage with several power strips and told people they could drop things off and pick them up in a few hours. Some people brought food for my freezer. Others just wanted to warm up for a bit and use a bathroom with working lights. Richard showed up around 10, looking sheepish. "Hey, Warren, I heard you were helping people out. I have some medications that need refrigeration. Is there any chance?" I let him store his medications in my fridge. Candace came by with her teenage daughter, who needed to charge her laptop to finish a school assignment. Sharon showed up to charge her phone and broke down crying, thanking me repeatedly. Tom, the board member who had voted against the generator ban, came by and handed me $200 in cash. "For the fuel," he said. "And I am sorry about how the board treated you. I voted against it, but I should have fought harder." I tried to refuse the money, but he insisted. "You are keeping half the neighborhood functioning right now. It is the least I can do." By midnight, I was exhausted. The generator was still humming steadily, but I had been dealing with people for hours. I was about to turn off the porch light and ignore any more doorbells when Patricia came back, this time with her husband, Dennis, who I had met a few times at neighborhood events. "We wanted to say thank you properly," Dennis said, "and to apologize. Patricia told me what she did, how she treated you. It was wrong. I should have supported her getting a generator, and she should never have taken it out on you. I am drafting my resignation from the board," Patricia added. "I will submit it at the next meeting. I have no business being HOA president. I let the tiny bit of power go to my head and I hurt people. I hurt you. I am sorry." I did not know what to say. Patricia looked genuinely remorseful, and Dennis seemed embarrassed by the whole thing. "You do not have to resign," I said finally. "But maybe this is a lesson for the whole board. The HOA should be helping the neighborhood, not harassing people who are following the rules." "You are right," Patricia said. "And I promise things will change. No more ridiculous fines, no more power trips. I want to make this right." They left, and I finally locked up for the night. The generator would keep running, and I would deal with more neighbors in the morning. But as I lay in bed listening to the steady hum and watching my ceiling fan spin, I felt satisfied. Not smug or superior, just content that I had done the right thing even when it was not easy. Thursday morning brought more rain and more neighbors. Jessica, the woman with the asthmatic daughter, came by around 8. "We lost power, and I am worried about keeping her nebulizer running. She has been having a rough time with the weather change." "Bring her over," I said immediately. "She can use the nebulizer here as often as she needs." Jessica teared up. "Thank you. You have no idea what this means." Throughout the day, my house became an unofficial community center. People came and went, charging devices, warming up food in my microwave, using the bathroom, or just sitting in my living room for a while to escape the cold darkness of their powerless homes. I made pots of coffee and put out snacks. It was chaotic and exhausting, but it also felt good. Frank, the older man who had supported me at the board meeting, showed up with his wife around noon. "We heard you are running a refugee camp here," he joked. "Mind if 2 more refugees join?" They sat at my kitchen table drinking coffee and chatting with other neighbors. It struck me that in 4 years of living in this neighborhood, I had never actually gotten to know most of these people. We waved in passing, complained about Patricia at the mailboxes, but never really connected. The disaster was bringing us together in a way nothing else had. Friday morning, the power company updated their estimates. The main transmission lines were badly damaged, and restoration was now estimated at 5 to 7 days for most of the affected areas. Some parts of the city already had power back, but our neighborhood was still in the dark. My generator had been running nonstop for over 2 days. I checked the fuel levels and calculated I had enough for another 3 days if I was careful. After that, I would need to refill, which might be challenging since gas stations without power could not pump fuel. I mentioned this to Marcus when he called to check on me Friday afternoon. "You are a better man than I am," he said. "I would have told the HOA board to freeze in the dark after how they treated you." "It crossed my mind," I admitted, "but what is the point? Being vindictive would not make anything better. At least this way, maybe something good comes out of it." "Well, take pictures and document everything," Marcus said. This is a perfect case study for why HOAs should not be banning generators. I might write an article about it for the State Bar Journal. Saturday brought a break in the weather but no power. The sun came out and temperatures warmed up into the 60s, which helped. People did not need my house to stay warm anymore, but they still needed power for food, devices, and medical equipment. Patricia came by in the morning with printed flyers. "I am going door to door letting everyone know they can come here for help," she said. "And I am organizing a collection to reimburse you for fuel and to cover your time. It is not right that you are bearing all the costs of helping everyone." "You do not need to do that," I said. "Yes, I do," Patricia insisted. "You are doing something incredible here, and the neighborhood needs to support you." By Sunday afternoon, Patricia had collected over $1,500 from neighbors contributing what they could. She presented it to me in a white envelope, along with a card signed by dozens of residents thanking me. "This is too much," I protested. "It is not enough," Patricia said firmly. "Warren, you have kept this neighborhood going for 4 days. You have powered medical equipment, saved thousands of dollars of food, kept people sane and comfortable. Some of us have the means to contribute and we want to. Please take it." I accepted the envelope, feeling overwhelmed. I had never been the center of attention like this, and I did not quite know how to handle it. Sunday night, Tom from the HOA board stopped by. "I am calling an emergency board meeting for Monday evening," he said. "I have the authority as a board member to call special meetings, even if Patricia does not want to. We need to formally rescind that generator amendment and issue a formal apology to you. The whole board needs to be on record supporting what you have done here." "Patricia already apologized," I said. "She did personally, but the board needs to do it officially," Tom said. "And we need to make changes. I am proposing new bylaws that limit the board's ability to fine people without due process and that protect resident rights to emergency equipment." "Will you come to the meeting?" I agreed. The meeting was set for Monday at 7, to be held in my living room since the community center still had no power. The board members would come to me for once. Monday evening, all 5 board members crowded into my house. My generator was still running, powering the lamps that lit the room. About 20 other residents showed up too, wanting to be part of what everyone seemed to sense was an important moment. Tom called the meeting to order. "First item of business," he said. "Motion to rescind the generator amendment passed at the special meeting last month." "Seconded," Patricia said immediately. The vote was unanimous. The amendment was dead. "Second item," Tom continued. "The board formally apologizes to Warren Porter for the harassment, unwarranted fines, and retaliation he experienced. Warren, we are sorry. You were right and we were wrong. Your generator has been a lifeline for this community, and your generosity in helping everyone despite how you were treated is remarkable." The room broke into applause. I felt my face getting hot. "Thank you," I managed to say. "I appreciate that." "Third item," Tom said. "I am proposing a complete overhaul of our fine system. No more fines without a proper hearing where the resident can defend themselves. No more vague violations. Everything has to be specific, documented, and actually harmful to the community. And no more retaliatory conduct by the board. Any board member who abuses their position will be removed." The board voted 4-1 in favor, with Richard being the only dissent. "I think this is an overreaction," he grumbled, but he was clearly outvoted. Patricia stood up and the room went quiet. "I have one more announcement," she said. "I am resigning as HOA president, effective immediately. I let the position make me into someone I did not like. I hurt people. I abused what little power I had, and I failed this community. I am sorry to everyone, but especially to Warren. I will stay on as a regular board member if people want me to, but I should not be president anymore. I accept Patricia's resignation as president, Tom said, and I nominate Frank Wilson for the position. Frank, the older man who had been at my house half the week, looked surprised but stood up. I will do it if people want me to, he said, but I am only interested if we are serious about changing how this HOA operates. No more petty tyranny. We should be helping each other, not finding reasons to fine people. The board voted unanimously to make Frank the new president. Patricia looked relieved more than upset. Dennis, sitting beside her, squeezed her hand. After the meeting ended and people started to leave, Patricia pulled me aside. "Thank you for not destroying me," she said quietly. You could have made me look like a monster in front of everyone, made them vote me out in disgrace. But you did not." "That would not have helped anything," I said. "You apologized. You are making it right. That is what matters." She nodded, wiping at her eyes. "Dennis and I are going to buy a generator, a good one like yours, and if you ever need anything at all, you just ask. I owe you." Tuesday morning, nearly 5 full days after the power went out, the electricity finally came back on. I was in the kitchen making coffee when the overhead lights suddenly blazed to life. The refrigerator started humming on house power instead of generator power. The clock on the microwave started blinking 12 o'clock. I went to the garage and shut down the generator. The sudden silence was deafening after days of constant noise. The machine had run almost non-stop for 120 hours, powering not just my house but helping dozens of neighbors. It had performed flawlessly. Over the next few days, life slowly returned to normal. The roads were cleared of debris. The internet came back online. People went back to work. But something had changed in Meadowbrook Hills. Neighbors who had never spoken before were now friends. People waved and stopped to chat instead of just rushing by. The whole atmosphere of the neighborhood felt different, warmer somehow. Frank, the new HOA president, called me 2 weeks after the power came back on. "Board meeting tonight if you are free," he said. "Nothing controversial, just regular business. But I wanted to personally invite you. We value your input now." I went to the meeting, held back at the community center now that it had power again. The atmosphere was completely different from the last meeting I had attended. Frank ran things efficiently but kindly, letting people speak without cutting them off, treating everyone with respect. During new business, Frank announced, "The board has decided to use HOA reserves to purchase a large commercial generator for the community center. If we ever have another extended outage, we can set up a central warming and charging station here." Warren has graciously offered to consult on the purchase and installation to make sure we get the right equipment. The residents in attendance applauded. I nodded, pleased that something genuinely good was coming out of the whole mess. After the meeting, Jessica, the woman with the asthmatic daughter, approached me with her husband. "We wanted you to know that you saved our daughter during that outage," she said. "Being able to bring her here for her treatments made all the difference. We will never forget that." "I am glad I could help," I said, meaning it. Tom pulled me aside as people were leaving. "You know, you should run for the board next election," he said. "We need more people with common sense and actual integrity. Patricia was not all bad, but she lost her way. You have shown what leadership actually looks like." I had to laugh at that. "I do not know about all that. I just ran my generator and helped some people out." "That is exactly my point," Tom said. "Real leadership is not about power trips and controlling people. It is about doing the right thing even when it is hard, even when people have treated you badly. That is what you did." I thought about it as I drove home that night. A few months ago, I had been a guy who kept to himself, did not get involved, just wanted to live my life quietly. Then Patricia had forced me into a confrontation I did not want, and everything had spiraled from there. But in a weird way, maybe it had all worked out for the best. The HOA was better now. The neighborhood was stronger. People were connected in ways they had not been before. Christmas came, and the neighborhood threw a big party at the community center, the first one in years according to Frank. Patricia and Dennis came, and Patricia actually seemed relaxed and happy in a way I had never seen before. She was not running things, not controlling everything, just enjoying herself as a regular resident. "Thank you again," she said when she saw me, "for everything. This has been a good change for me. I did not realize how stressed I was, how miserable being president was making me until I stopped. I feel like myself again." "I am glad," I said. "You seem happier." "I am," she said, "and Dennis and I got our generator installed last week. A nice quiet one, professionally soundproofed. If the power goes out again, we will be ready, and if anyone needs help, we will pay it forward like you did." New Year came and went. January brought surprisingly mild weather, none of the ice and freezing temperatures that had caused the disaster the previous year. The neighborhood breathed a collective sigh of relief. In March, there was an election for open board positions. Tom decided not to run again, saying he had done his part in reforming things and wanted to let others step up. I ended up getting nominated by Frank and Jessica, and despite my reservations, I agreed to run. I won easily, along with two other new members who shared the vision of a reformed, helpful HOA rather than a punitive one. My first board meeting as an official member was weird. Sitting at that table, helping make decisions about the neighborhood, felt surreal after everything that had happened. But it also felt right. Frank ran the meeting smoothly, and we actually accomplished useful things like approving a new playground, organizing a neighborhood cleanup day, and discussing ways to improve communication with residents. No fines were issued. No one was harassed for petty violations. We focused on real issues that actually mattered to people's quality of life. After the meeting, Patricia, who was still on the board as a regular member, came up to me. "You are going to be great at this," she said. "You actually care about helping people, not just enforcing rules." "That is what we needed all along." "We all care," I said. "That is why it is working now. It is not about any one person," she smiled. Spoken like a true leader. Over the following months, Meadowbrook Hills transformed. The new community generator got installed and tested. We organized neighborhood events that actually brought people together. The HOA website got updated with clear, reasonable rules and an actual process for disputing violations that involved fairness and due process. We were not perfect, but we were so much better than we had been. My generator sat in my garage, ready for the next emergency but mostly just running its weekly self-tests. Sometimes, I would hear it kick on for those 10 minutes and smile, remembering the chaos of that November week when it had been the most important piece of equipment in the neighborhood. I never regretted buying it, despite all the trouble it had caused. It had forced issues to the surface that needed addressing. It had revealed who people really were under pressure, both the good and the bad. And ultimately, it had brought a community together in ways that would not have happened otherwise. Patricia became one of my better friends in the neighborhood, which would have seemed impossible a year ago. She and Dennis had me over for dinner regularly, and we would joke about the generator incident, as we called it now. She had genuinely changed, become more thoughtful and less controlling. She told me once that getting knocked off her pedestal had been the best thing that ever happened to her. "I was turning into my mother," she said. "Critical, judgmental, never satisfied with anything. Losing the presidency forced me to take a hard look at myself. I did not like what I saw, so I changed it. You gave me that gift, even though I fought you every step of the way. I was not trying to give you anything, I said. I just wanted to run my generator in peace. She laughed. I know. That is what makes it even better. You were not on some crusade to reform the HOA or teach me a lesson. You were just doing what was right, being prepared, and then helping people who needed it. You were not a hero trying to prove anything. You were just a good neighbor. That is what made such an impact. Frank proved to be an excellent HOA president, running things with common sense and fairness. Under his leadership, the neighborhood became more cohesive and functional. People took pride in Meadowbrook Hills again, not because we had the strictest rules or the most perfect lawns, but because we actually looked out for each other. The changes we made attracted positive attention. A local news station did a story about our HOA reform after Frank submitted it as a feel-good piece. They interviewed me, Frank, Patricia, and several other residents. Patricia was remarkably candid about her mistakes and what she had learned. I let a tiny bit of power corrupt me, she said on camera. I forgot that the HOA exists to serve residents, not control them. Warren taught all of us that lesson, not by preaching but by example. When he had every reason to be vindictive after how I treated him, he instead chose generosity. That changed everything. The story went semi-viral locally, and we got emails from other neighborhoods dealing with similar HOA issues, asking for advice on how to implement reforms. Frank and I ended up writing a guide of best practices that got shared around Texas HOA communities. It felt good to know that our mess had led to something positive that could help others. A year after the initial generator incident, we held a neighborhood anniversary party, commemorating the week the lights went out, as people called it. Someone made a cake decorated with a fondant generator, which I found hilarious. We all gathered at the community center, and Frank gave a short speech. A year ago, our neighborhood faced a crisis, he said. We lost power for nearly a week, but we also gained something more valuable. We gained a real sense of community. We learned who we could count on, and we learned that sometimes our worst moments reveal our best possibilities. Warren's generator kept us functioning physically, but his generosity kept us functioning as a community. So let us remember that, and let us keep being the kind of neighbors who help each other, especially when it is not convenient or easy. That is what makes a place a real home. People applauded, and I felt emotional in a way I had not expected. This neighborhood, which had felt like just a place I lived a year ago, now felt like home in a deeper way. I knew these people. I cared about them. They cared about me. We had been through something together, and it had bonded us. As the party wound down and people started heading home in the warm spring evening, I walked back to my house with a sense of contentment. My generator sat silent in the garage, ready if needed but hopefully not necessary anytime soon. It had cost me $3,000 and a month of headaches, but it had been worth every penny and every moment of stress. Sometimes the right thing to do is not the easy thing. Sometimes standing up for yourself means facing conflict you would rather avoid. But sometimes that conflict leads to growth, change, and community in ways you never expected. I went inside my house, poured myself a glass of tea, and sat on my back porch watching the sunset paint the Texas sky in shades of orange and pink. The neighborhood was quiet, peaceful, functional. The HOA was working the way it should. People were happy, and my generator sat ready in the garage, a silent guardian just in case we ever needed it again. But more than that, it was a symbol of something important that I had learned and that I hoped the neighborhood had learned too. Preparation is not paranoia. Independence is not selfishness. And being right is not as important as being kind, especially when you have the power to be otherwise. Those lessons had cost us all something to learn, but they had been worth it. The sun set fully, and the neighborhood lights came on, powered by the reliable electrical grid that we all hoped would never fail again but knew probably would eventually. When it did, we would be ready, not just with generators and supplies, but with the kind of community bonds that can weather any storm. That was what mattered most in the end. Not the rules, not the covenants, not who was right or wrong in any particular dispute. What mattered was that when things got hard, we showed up for each other. We set aside pride and pettiness and did what needed doing. That was the real victory that came out of those dark, generator-powered days. I finished my tea and went inside, locking up for the night, grateful for my home, my neighborhood, and even for Patricia and her complaints that had set everything in motion. Sometimes the worst conflicts lead to the best outcomes. Sometimes you need a little chaos to build something better on the other side. And sometimes all it takes is one person willing to do the right thing, even when everyone is telling them they are wrong, to change an entire community for the better. I had not set out to be that person, but circumstance had made me one anyway. And looking back on everything that had happened, I would not change a thing.